Welcome to the Marvel Alliance podcast, where we cover anything and everything to do with the Marvel Universe. From the comics, TV, and movies, we will go from the Mojoverse to Earth 616 to the Quantum Realm in order to bring the Marvel Universe right to you. I'm the man without fear, Chris.
I'm your friendly neighborhood Brent.
Alliance
Assemble.
Assemble, Volume 158. And we have not just one, ladies and gentlemen, we have two big Marvel trailers to break down. And if you're watching live, you can tell what one of them is. You know, we got another Spider-Verse trailer. We've got another Secret Invasion trailer. We'll basically probably call them the final trailers for both. At least what we'll be going over on this show.
So it's my final trailer. I realize we're still farther out, but I don't need another trailer for either of these projects now. I'm happy. Let's do it.
Yep. So how's your week been, Brent?
Well, it's been okay. You know, I mentioned last week that I was having sinus surgery, and that seems. I mean, it took an extra hour because apparently of issues, but overall went fine. And I'm supposed to go back to work on Monday, and right now I don't know how I'm going to do it. I have no energy. I'm getting just drained so fast. So we'll see if I make it. Before I came down here, my wife said, "Don't fall asleep." I'm like, well, I'll do my best. But I'm here. I was telling you, it's like I couldn't miss on a double trailer week. So
yeah,
we'll see how it goes. Just bear with me if my thought processes are a little off because I'm not on my A game tonight.
Whatever it takes, right?
Whatever it takes, you know. There's a Spider-Man trailer, right? There's Secret Invasion. It's like I can't. I'm not missing trailers.
And again, you had a big moment in that trail. We'll ruin it. We'll let you gush about that at that
little
point.
Fist pumping, that's right.
But yeah, this week for me, final week before spring break. I'm kind of officially on spring break. I got a little work to do tomorrow to tie it up. But yes, I'm basically officially on spring break, and we'll do some little bit of network stuff right now. I will not be on next week. Brent will still be here.
I will be here.
The show will continue on, and I will be actually heading down with my family to Disney World. So we haven't told the kids yet. That comes tomorrow because, like any 6-year-old or any young kid, you tell them too early, it's every day, every waking moment.
Yes,
they're going to ask the question. So
yes, it is.
So we will be heading down to Disney World for the week. But Mr. Travis Hines from DC Alliance, the Animation Nation, will be taking the co-host seat next week, and I'm sure it'll be a great show.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. He was kind enough to, he's recently had a baby, and I'm like, man, if you're too busy, I totally get it. I get it, but. He's like, no, I want to do it. We'll be fine.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, that is a decision between you and your family. So
exactly. And guess what? I get to be a listener on my drive home then.
You do. So yeah, it'll be a fun one.
Yeah, so I'm definitely looking forward to it. And but yeah, so we got two big trailers. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get these show plugs out of the way. We are part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network with covering the wide range of geek and nerdom with these 8 shows we got here. To see the full schedule, check out the show notes below and subscribe to the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Twitter at GUA Network so you know when all the shows drop live. We also have a Patreon, so if you want to throw a couple of shekels our way, we've got 2 tiers. Our $1 tier to say our tip jar, to say, hey, you think we're doing a good job? And then our $5 tier with our ad-free episodes, early access episodes, and Patreon-exclusive shows, including our show, We Can Watch This All Day, the Marvel Alliance MC Rewatch. We have 15 episodes up, including our most recent one, Captain America Civil War. DC Alliance has their DC Through the Years that they're working through all the films and possibly some of the pilots of some of the illustrious DC shows as well. And then you've got Joe's Multiverse Minutes and Heinz's Top 5s. You got a lot of great back content on there. We want to thank our patrons. We cannot do this without your support. But if you're not a member of our Patreon, go to www.patreon.com/GUA Network to join the GUA Patreon. But if you can't join us on Patreon, we totally understand. If you want to take 30 to 90 seconds and rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you get your podcast, we greatly appreciate that. And last but certainly not least, we want to thank our official sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com, for your omnibus hardcover collected edition needs. JP and the crew at OPB have got it going on with immaculate customer service, excellent packaging, ships around the world. Got some great omnis going live right now. Black Panther by Christopher Priest, Volume 2. The final volume of Brubaker's run of Captain America. Daredevil by Mark Waid, Volume 1 coming back into print. Lots of great stuff. And use that code MARVELGUA at checkout to get $2 off every single order. Use it a limited amount of times. It lets them know you're a listener, and we want to thank them for being our official sponsor. All right, Brent. So, again, we've got 2 trailers to go over. We're going to, as you see by the title, our lead tonight is, again, you and I have got some personal loves in this movie, personal characters that we just love seeing them on the screen at that point. So we're going to start off with our first breakdown of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, second trailer, final trailer we'll be going over on this show. Yeah, we knew this was coming. We had a lot of hints this was coming. There were a little bit of back and forth about possibility of who we might be seeing in this. And so we're going to technically show the international trailer that had a very different opening than we got in the States. So as always, we are volume down on this. And the interesting thing about this, Sony does not like doing closed captioning. Like if you're watching live or watching in the video, like the international chair will have captioning, but when we switch over to the domestic side, there is no closed captioning, which I'm not sure why. So Sony needs to work on that.
Absolutely. So accessibility, it matters.
Exactly. So, all right. So starting off with the international chair, the reason we're showing this is because the intro of it has something different.
Celebrating the Spider-Verse.
Yes. And so we start off with seeing Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man voicing over, saying, sometimes to do what's right, we have to give up the thing we want the most. So very much Spider-Man about sacrifice. It says we know sacrifice. Then we cue up Andrew Garfield, starting off by saying, every day I wake up knowing the more people I try to save, the more enemies I will make. So I could definitely say that Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man was always the more guilt-ridden out of our 3. And then the quote-unquote hero, Tom Holland, Spider-Man, this is my chance to prove myself.
So there had been, and I forgive me, I'm forgetting which scooper said what, but somebody had said, maybe it was my time to shine. I don't know. Somebody said, we're going to see Tom, Andrew, and Tobey next week. This was last week before the trailer. And the implication was something like this, like a quick little voiceover to remind you of, hey, like we're Sony, we're Spider-Man, like those 2 brands go together. And we've already done one. We did a live action Spider-Verse, and we're going to invoke some of those feelings right now, which great marketing. I have no problem with them invoking that whatsoever. I just assumed when the trailer came out that, the scoop was just wrong. It just happens. That's why you're not Deadline. That's why you're not Variety or THR. Like, it happens. Okay, no big deal. You took a shot, you missed. All right. And then, I don't know, an hour later, I see the international trailer. I'm like, what? I didn't see this. Like,
I know, yeah.
So I had to send it out to a couple people. I'm like, you need to watch this if you haven't seen it yet. I love that they did it, though. I wish this had been in both trailers.
Yeah, I don't, there's always some differences between the international and the domestic side, but I do like it how they end with Miles saying anyone can wear the mask, because that's what was the biggest thing about that was one of the greatest messages from the first movie is I think anyone can wear the mask, and that's what makes Spider-Man one of the most unique characters in the Marvel universe.
Yeah, and it's funny because okay, I'm going to give a comic book spoiler right now. Okay. So if you're reading Dan Slott's Spider-Man comic book and you want to be totally cold, just skip forward a minute. He's introducing a new character. I think that issue comes out. It either came out yesterday or comes out next week. I'm not sure which. It's issue 7 of the Spider-Man book he's doing with Bagley. And he's introducing, for not the first time ever, but for the first time in the mainline continuity, a Spider-Boy. That's literally all I know about it. Please don't tell me anything else about it. I don't want to know. And I saw a whole lot of people talking about not my Spider-Boy, because they're talking about the combo of Spider-Man and Superboy from the 90s, or they're like, oh, there was a Spider Kid in Spider-Verse, or there's Kid Arachnid or whatever that Miles is called in one of the cartoons. And it's like, not my Spider-Boy. And I'm like, those same people are like celebrating this movie, like 3 different live action Spider-Man, Miles with all these different Spider-Man that we see. And I'm like, guys, you need to go rewatch the first movie. Anyone can wear the mask.
Yeah.
And it just, within a week of each other, like these two announcements happened, this trailer and the announcement of what issue 7 of Slot Spider-Man was going to pertain. And I just could not believe it. I shouldn't be surprised. Well, leave it to Twitter. But I even they found a way, like Spider-Man Twitter found a way to disappoint me. It's such a horrible place sometimes that I'm like, this should be a celebration of all these different Spider characters. I don't know. I'm super interested in what Slot's doing, and I love everything I'm seeing out of these trailers and all these different Spider-Men and Spider-Women and Spider-whatever giving us the focus. And I think it's awesome that they included the live-action versions. Just, no, not it's the movie itself. That's a discussion for another time, but just to, invoke those feelings. I think that's great.
Yeah, and it's one of those where you just kind of have to just like enjoy what we're getting. Like enjoy the moment, enjoy all these different versions because again, if one of them's not your favorite, I guarantee you're going to find your favorite having some sort of moment in this movie. But let's head to the domestic side of the trailer at that point where it's just a lot of good stuff in here. So all right, we start off getting reintroduced to Miles. As he was saying, he is the only Spider-Man. The only Spider-Man in Brooklyn at that point. But we do see, him having trouble balancing his life, which, let's just be honest, that is a big trait amongst all Spider-Men. In his case, he's late to trying to get to this party that they're having at their place. Shrugging off his parents, especially his mom, saying, whatever, and that does not go well. He's doing good in some parts of his school, but then we find out later that he's getting a B in Spanish, and his mom is Puerto Rican, so as his dad says, what are you trying to kill your mother?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the B in Spanish, that got actually like an audible laugh out of me. I was pretty surprised at that one.
It's one of those like saying, oh, of course, yeah, you're the one that's going to get the B in Spanish, so... but we do get, because in the last trailer, we did not see anything of the big villain that Lord and Miller has said is going to be the villain for this one and Beyond the Spider-Verse is the Spot. So we get our first look at Spot, voiced by Jason Schwartzman. In the comics, we don't know officially if it's going to continue on this way, but in the comics, his name is Dr. Jonathan Owen. He was a graduate of MIT, and he was tasked by the Kingpin to figure out how the Cloak, who is another character in Marvel Comics that has this huge cloak, who accesses and teleports through what's known as the Dark Dimension. And Kingpin wanted to know how his powers worked. Well, when Dr. Owen figured it out, he stepped into one of the portals and ended up in the Dark Dimension. And when he found his way back out, he found his body had changed, and these portals had suddenly started forming all over him. And he could travel through the multiverse, and he can create them. In the comics, he's a joke, and I think in this movie, he's obviously starting off like that, but I think he's going to be very much, as the movie goes on, becoming very dangerous.
Yeah, I think so. And like this scene is joking, like Miles is literally laughing at him, but I think we're going to find out that, there is more to him, and he can be a dangerous character. So I'm excited to see what they do with him in this.
Yeah, and especially, I love the gag. I definitely laugh when he takes the bread and the bread falls out of his stomach. So,
great gag.
Exactly. So we see him in the background. His parents are, having that conference where he finds out how he's doing in class. So he's not totally failing everything, but he's might as well getting an F in Spanish by getting a B.
No, but somebody who's supposed to be as smart as Miles is. Mm-hmm. Someone who, you might remember in the first movie, got a perfect score on a test by picking the wrong answer every single time. And the teacher seeing right through that. Like, no, he is smart enough. He holds himself to a higher standard, or he probably would if he wasn't distracted by being Spider-Man so much.
Yeah, again, typical of our Spider-Man at that point, who always have this balance. In this case, he's got both parents are worried about him. They obviously don't know he's Spider-Man. They know something's up. They know he's hiding stuff, but it's one of those balancing acts by they want him to be his own person, but also they're concerned that he's losing focus.
Exactly.
All right, and we start seeing what we've seen in the last, like, teasers, trailers, this entrance of Miles just chilling out in his room, and then we see Gwen there. Now, here's an interesting thing. They keep on changing Gwen's intro, because in the last trailer, or in one of the teasers, she definitely did not have this pink jacket on. And in this trailer, she have it. I don't think there's anything sinister. I just find it interesting that in this one sequence, we've got two different versions.
Yeah, I think that just shows them still working on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she's asking him, "Do you want to get out of here?" And we travel. They travel through these lovely hexagons, and hexagons seem to be very big in the MCU with Wanda. They seem to be big in here, and I love our friend of the show, Ryan Airy, on Screen Crush. Does the not the bees whenever the hexagon comes up, because it's always like these these conspiracy theories going on about the hexagons. But this is how they're used to travel through the Spider-Verse. So we get some looks at some of our spiders that we've seen a little bit in other trailers. One note, we see Spider-Woman, voiced by Issa Rae. She, as we see, will be pregnant in it. Originally a spider who Spider-Woman was originally a spider who transformed into a human, and it was retconned to her just having the memories of this being implanted in her by Hydra. Spider-Woman can fly, crawl on walls, shoot venom energy blasts, and has pheromones to manipulate emotions. The current canon really made this a lot better, saying her mother was struck by radiation when pregnant and Jessica Drew, and contained different spiders' DNA. This Jessica Drew borrows the aesthetics from the very first Spider-Woman, a black woman named Valerie the Librarian. And I think it's a very nice, and I said it the last time, I love that they're bringing this homage for the original Spider-Woman into this movie. I think it's great.
Sure. I completely agree. I like this design for Spider-Woman.
Mm-hmm.
Her original costume, I think, is iconic. She's had it revised a couple times recently, and those revisions they've all been fine for me, but none of them have really like connected with me in a way. It was like, oh, that would be a great costume going forward. But this interpretation of the Spider-Woman costume, I'm really liking.
And I especially love shooting the webs from her fingertips. I absolutely think that's so cool.
Yes, that when that happens, it kind of reminds me of like often how we would see Venom symbiote stuff where carnages come off of their fingers, and so it's similar, not the same. I want to say there was another prominent spider character that did that, but I'm blanking on who it was right now.
Silk?
Silk, maybe, yeah. That might be it. Yep.
All right, Spider-Punk. We get our first look at Spider-Punk, voiced by Daniel Kaluuya. Spider-Punk was introduced actually in our last comic book club. His introduction came in Amazing Spider-Man number 10, Spider-Verse Part 2. He is from Earth 138. He's a homeless teenager named Hobart, nicknamed Hobie Brown. He had toxic waste fall on him from Oscorp. And so, again, Norman Osborn in his Earth, so he's a punk rocker. Very cool. I cannot wait to kind of hear finally a voice with Spider-Punk.
Such a fun character design. You know, there's the semi-recent Edge of Spider-Verse, I think is what it was. Regarding the Spider-Punk miniseries that I think is worth reading. Probably not something I'll revisit over and over and over again, but it's worth reading for sure. Great character design, cool character, and it's not Peter. It's a Spider-Man who's not Peter Parker.
Mm-hmm. And then we get our first look at Spider-Man India. Now, in the very first kind of teaser, trailer, whatever you want to call it, we did see Miguel and Miles fighting through Spider-Man India's basically his Earth. Now, I think they said that we will be seeing, 5 to 7 different Earths, different multiverses of as we go through at least this Across the Spider-Verse, and they're each going to have their own animation style, and I really think that's going to be very cool to see.
But one thing I wasn't clear about, that is that all in this movie or between the two movies?
I think what I've heard for this movie, I think there's at least 5. There's been 5 confirmed.
There is one that we have not seen yet. There's one that they haven't put in any of the marketing. They're saving just for the show itself.
Yeah, but Spider-Man India is voiced by Karan Soni, and his name is Pavit. I'm gonna do my best, ladies and gentlemen, with this. Paviter Prabhakar from Earth 50101. His family moves to Mumbai when he gets a scholarship to attend a prominent school. He encounters an ancient being that gives him his spider powers. He uses his powers for his own personal gain, and stop if you've heard this before. And then when he ignores a mugger and later finds that mugger killed his uncle, he has his moment of change and asks who, and he's the one, when you hear the trailer, he's the one who's saying who's the new guy. So he has a big change after his uncle is killed by this mugger. Seems familiar, right?
Indeed. No, this costume is, if you Google Spider-Man India in the comics, top up is basically the Spider-Man, like the Peter Parker Spider-Man costume. Mm-hmm. This is radically different, and I think it looks awesome. I love this shot. I love this design for this character. I'm looking forward to more of this for sure.
I will say this is definitely superior. Huh?
I see what you did there, and I'm gonna roll with you on it. This is definitely the superior look for Spider-Man India.
Yep. So we get the lobby sequence that we saw in the last trailer.
This is just the lobby.
Yep, it's just the lobby. And then we get my man Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man 2099, jumping in, and he's tearing apart the Vulture.
Yep.
And Miles wants to be on this team, which Miguel says he's never going to be a part of this.
And I think it's interesting how physically large he is compared to most of the other Spider-Man characters. Like, he is physically imposing, whereas in the comics he's traditionally depicted to be about the same size as Peter Parker. Here he is significantly bulkier.
Yeah, and definitely I love how, I mean, it's very good, but I love they got a lot of the different kind of facial kind of modeling almost after Oscar Isaac as well.
Completely agree. Yes, this does look like him.
Now, he does drop this little line here that everyone seems to be losing their minds on Twitter about, including Aman Vellani, saying, he says, "Don't get me started on the whole Doctor Strange and the little nerd from Earth 199999."
Right. So, just in case somebody doesn't know, that is the universe designation for the MCU. Outside the MCU. Inside the MCU, it was on that other Earth in Multiverse of Madness 838, I think. That Earth had designated the prime timeline as 616. But outside, the MCU has always been referenced as 1999. I may have had too many nines there, but a 1 and 5 nines. And it's, regardless, it's super interesting to me. Like, that part, just the number, okay, they can do that. My big question when I saw that, I'm like, well, that's a Spider-Man No Way Home reference. That's awesome. That's awesome. I love that. 2, did they have to get permission from Marvel to use the words Doctor Strange? I don't know. Like, I know technically they used Doctor Strange, like his name was mentioned in Spider-Man 2. Jameson says it when they're trying to name Dr. Octopus, but it was a different time then. The Marvel Studios, as we know it, was not in active development. I don't know the answer. I don't know. I gotta think they would, they've been working well together. They would say sure, but excuse me, I love the inclusion, and I do believe that there in one of these two movies will be a Tom Holland cameo at least. I don't anticipate something large. I don't think he's going to be like in the movie for 20 minutes or 30 minutes, but one line of dialogue, a 2-minute conversation, maybe like something like that, I think is very, very possible.
Rumor had it Tom Holland was supposed to be in the first one.
Yep. So I remember those very much.
Yep. So for those that don't know, Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man 2099, in the comics, he works for Alchemix, where he was pressured into running genetic material of animals on humans. When a test subject died, he went to his boss, who had him drink something laced with a drug called Rapture, giving him his intense hallucinations. He ran the test on himself to rid this out of him and spliced his DNA with a spider and gave him the usual abilities, including moving so fast that he leaves behind a decoy. He can crawl on walls. He's got web shooters. He does have, and you're going to see this at points, like, it looks like he's a vampire. No, that's part of his abilities. He has these kind of vampiric like teeth, his canine teeth he does bite and can put poison, much like a spider does to their prey. He also has razor sharp claws. So he is a formidable spider.
Yeah, he's definitely not one to mess with. And let's be clear, he's got an awesome, awesome costume.
Oh my god, I cannot wait to get that Funko. I'm sorry, but that Funko excites me. So yeah, he's telling him like he doesn't care, and we get, hey, don't leave him alone. He had a terrible teacher, and we get our reintroduction to Peter B. Parker, and we see that he's got a kid. Mayday Parker has been introduced now.
In the last trailer, people thought it looked like he was holding a baby carrier or something like that on him,
Mm-hmm.
and now confirmed he's got his daughter. We've got Mayday Parker. She is there. Is she going to grow up to become the spectacular Spider Girl? Time will tell. But I think it's awesome that they're including her.
Yep. So we'll see that, and he's just Miles is trying to keep it together at this point. And we see Miles running through. Now we see Gwen over a lifeless body of a Peter Parker. Now, in the first movie, we know that her Peter Parker turned into the Lizard and died. He was killed. And we saw him like having scales on him. But this is a different look for him that he's got clothes on. We do know we are going to go to Gwen's Earth, and we will meet her father, Captain Stacy, who will be voiced by Shea Wiggum.
Right. Yep. And I kind of wondered if like maybe this is right before he turns into the Lizard or something like that.
Could be.
Like, he's unconscious here? She thinks he's dying, and he comes back, and then he goes all lizard on her.
Mm-hmm, yeah. Miguel's saying, being Spider-Man is a sacrifice. You have a choice of saving one person or saving every world. And this is where we get the sequence of him seeing his dad and him falling to his death. Now, we don't know what this is. They're making it seem like he's seeing a vision of his future. And this is where, like, if we're, trailers always kind of do a little bit of lies at that point or kind of switch some things up. He says, send me back. And Miles like, I can't do that.
It's not.
Excuse me, Miguel says I can't do that.
It's not often that a Spider-Man has two parental figures in their life, and he currently does. That said, in the comics right now, both of Miles' parents are alive. Mm-hmm. Both of them are alive. That actually, I want to say it was his mom who died pre-Secret Wars, but as part of the whole universe shakeup, she was brought back. So it's not unprecedented for him to have both parents, but it definitely makes him unique among spiders.
He does. And we get our first look at Spider-Bite, named Margot from Earth 22191. She is living in a world where people spend the majority of their time as virtual avatars. If you're a fan of the book and or movie Ready Player One, it's basically like that. She decided to hack the system and create her own spider-powered avatar to act as a mass vigilante and help stop cybercrime as a form of community service. She uses her programming skills to create her cybernetic armor that boosts her strength and speed, magnetic grips on her gloves and boots, and photonic web shooters that could tangle her enemies in hard light webs. So a very unique spider character.
Yeah, definitely different. I'll be curious to see if her world is one of them that we go to.
Yeah. So even when like Miles says, Miguel says, I'm not going to send you back. And he says, he says, I can do both. And Spider-Man always, and Peter, I can't tell if it's Peter or Miguel. I want to say it's Miguel. He says, not always. To which Miles says, what about Uncle Ben? And Miguel says, if not for Uncle Ben, most of us would not be here.
Yeah, which is a really cold line.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, like people's like, they're putting this thing like, Miguel is the villain of this movie. I don't think Miguel is the villain of this movie necessarily. He has built this. I mean, Gwen says it like Miguel built the bands. He's got this whole group together. He's trying to preserve this, and so whatever Miles is trying to do is going to put this at threat. So there may be framing him as a villain, but he's not. I'm trying to separate, trying to be objective. Miguel's my guy, but they're trying to do an interesting kind of thing, and I don't think when we see the movie, it won't be necessarily that Miguel's quote unquote the bad guy. He's just trying to keep Miles in line while Miles is saying, "But there's another way. We can do better." Trying to get Miguel to see a difference.
And here, I don't think of him as a villain, but I do think of him as an antagonist to Miles. Mm-hmm. But by the end of the movie, I don't think we're going to be viewing Miguel as a villain.
Yeah. This is where he takes off. We get some great chase sequences. Now I know, like I love how we get some of these voiceovers where Gwen saying, "I can't lose another friend." Peter B. Parker saying to Miguel, "I can't." Excuse me. Peter B. Parker saying that this wasn't part of the deal. So there is something that Peter B. Parker and Miguel have talked about. We don't know what that is.
I want to mention we're past it at this point, but it's pretty quick and hard to pause on it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a shot of Gwen in her room, and on the wall is a poster that says "Protect Trans Kids."
Mm-hmm.
And there's actually on a binder of that Miles has towards the beginning, I forgot to mention this, is a BLM sticker, a Black Lives Matter sticker. And I think it's pretty cool that they're including both of these things because those are very, very important issues right now. And I think, you just about had it.
Yep.
I think those are perfect. There you go.
Here.
Protect trans kids. I think I love to see that they're supporting these things because those are something that Spider-Man would support, and I think it's great to include those.
Well, both characters do support that in the comics too, so this is nothing necessarily outside the realm of what they would do anyway. So despite what some people think of being quote-unquote woke, this is what the characters do.
Yeah,
Sorry.
And it's literally just the right thing, so I think it's awesome.
Yep, it is. So, you gotta love seeing all the spiders going after, and I love how, Miguel's basically, as Miles is, Miguel's on top of him at that point, and Miles goes, "Nah, man, I'm going to do my own thing." As he's powering up, getting ready to do his Venom blast.
Yep, great line from that.
Mm-hmm. And it's true. Like he says, everyone's trying to tell me how to basically live my life, what to do. I am going to do it my way. And here we almost missed it. Almost. There we go.
So after Miles says he's doing it his own way, and it kind of reminiscent of the Winter Soldier. Basically, Miguel goes on a PA and says, "Hey, you need to stop Spider-Man."
Yep.
And they show the Scarlet Spider. I'm like, oh, it's a beautiful moment. It's wonderful. I love that they're including that. I love that they're even just showing just this much of it. It's so great to see him. He is, if you're new to the show, Scarlet Spider is my favorite alternate Spider-Man character. Ever since the Clone Saga days, I've just loved this character so much.
This costume is epic.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I love it. And, I'm maybe not the biggest fan of what they're doing with the character in the comics right now, but he's not dead, so I'll still take it.
There we go. So you get the lovely meme of Spider-Man, stop Spider-Man. They're all pointing at you, me, you. And we get a interesting sequence, a little humor stuff of a Spider-Man talking to psychologist Spider-Man saying that, and then I looked at my uncle, and the psychologist cuts in and said, "Let me guess, he dies, and then this happens." But before this happens, look at right here in the background, we see a Rorschach test that looks like a spider on the wall, and a little head of a Spider-Man instead of the head of a human brain, where you get the kind of like where the certain brain parts are and things like that. And all these spiders break through, including Spider Horse.
That makes me laugh every time I see someone say that, read it or hear it. Spider Horse.
So June 2nd, at that point. So it is. This movie is going to be a lot of fun, and I think if I remember correctly, this was the most viewed trailer for a summer movie right now.
It had one of those kind of records. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah. So, but it was very highly viewed. Very, very highly viewed at that point. So obviously this caught a lot of attention, and obviously we'll be reviewing it on this show. So.
We will. We should go ahead and mention for that it's going to be one day later than normal. We normally would do those on the Friday night. We're going to be doing. I have some real life stuff that day, so we're going to do it on the Saturday instead.
Yep, family comes first.
That's right.
So, all right. So let us take our first before we take our ad break. Do you have anything else you want to talk about, Brent, with the trailer?
I did not expect to see my boy Ben Reilly so much in this, and it looks like it's going to be so much fun. This is my most anticipated Marvel movie of the year.
There we go. I would not argue with that. I think it definitely is on top of mind. So, all right. So let us take our first ad break. So listeners, these ads help keep the lights on in the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on. They can be a bit loud. I'll give you the 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We will be right back. And we are back. All right. So The first trailer to actually come out this week was this one with, I believe, Sunday Night Baseball,
Yep.
Secret Invasion second trailer. So this, I've watched this trailer as many times as this Across the Spider-Verse, but like there was so much I'm excited for with this, and it just gives me so much confidence seeing that. I'm really hoping the vibe I'm getting from this is going to be paid off with this series. It
Yeah,
just looks so good.
I like how the poster, invokes the comic book ads. Who do you trust? And I think some people do need to kind of level set their expectations. They're
Mm-hmm.
doing a Disney Plus show here. They're not doing an Avengers movie. This isn't Avengers Secret Invasion where you can expect to see all the major players in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like to date, outside War Machine, we haven't seen any of the other Avengers, and even
Yeah.
he wasn't in his armor at the time. I don't know. I'm looking at this like it's going to be a fun, almost like spy thriller, espionage type thing,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I'm going into it as. I think some people need a level set on that.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm looking at. I'm looking for even more like taking Winter Soldier and Falcon and the Winter Soldier and melding them into one to get this series. That's what I'm expecting instead of the top, like your holy trinity, your quote unquote holy trinity of Thor, Iron Man, and Captain America, of which only one technically still exists at that point. We're getting our next tier, our supporting characters are going to get a moment to shine in what Kevin Feige has deemed as the first Disney Plus crossover event.
Yeah, and I'd be really curious to find out what that actually means.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, so we see Nick Fury walking in. Looks to be, now we're not sure what exactly this is, but he's walking around towards this kind of gated possible fort. We still don't know how long he's been gone. This could be a defunct SHIELD hideout or one of his own hideouts. There's a bunch of radiation signs that I've seen better pictures of that are actually written in Russian. So this could be in Russia. So it says, since you've been gone, we get this light opening up. Must be Fury coming out of the ship.
So, do you think that Fury at some obviously we know in Far From Home Fury was a Skrull. Do you think he was a Skrull prior to that?
I think Talos had been portraying him a lot longer than just Far From Home.
Would you put it all the way back to Avengers Age of Ultron like some people are doing?
I'm not ready to go that far, but I'm not saying that don't misunderstand that I think they're wrong. I'm not there yet at that point.
So I'll mention why they're saying that, but to think back to Fury's appearances since Age of Ultron, they're actually not that many. It's basically the credit scene of Infinity War, the very end, the funeral scene of Endgame, and am I missing anything else? I don't think I am.
No, I don't think so.
So it'd be pretty easy for Talos to have been around at least that long. Do you know why Age of Ultron is the movie people have pegged as that wasn't Fury?
I do, but go for it.
Okay, so it has to do basically with the piece of toast he's eating.
Yeah,
because he says I'm brain farting on it right now, but he basically says in Captain Marvel he can't eat it if it's cut diagonally, and then in Age of Ultron he's eating diagonally cut toast. Something along the absurdity of those lines, and this is where I love the internet for making those connections. But I don't know. I do think it'd be kind of amazing if they tracked it back to
God.
then. And if you think about Fury's actions since then, calling Captain Marvel for help, and then just attending Tony Stark's funeral, Talos hasn't done anything that Fury wouldn't have done. So
that's true.
It kind of fits. I'm not ready to plant my flag on that team just yet, but I think it's interesting.
So I want everyone kind of pay attention to something, because this is something I picked up throughout the trailer at that point with what Nick Fury is wearing. We see him wearing a red cap here and kind of a more kind of heavy coat at that point. But as we go through this, we're going to see him including picking up later on in the trailer like a different coat and a different hat, like a much sleeker coat. So I think this is going to be kind of our signal of time moving forward. I think the older, more heavier coat is going to be earlier in the show, while the sleeker version will be somewhat later in the show. We do see Talos talking to Fury here, saying since he's been gone, it's gotten much worse, and that's why. And Fury says, "Why do you think I've come back?" So we get shots of Moscow and the Kremlin. All right, so we see our introduction to our main antagonist for Secret Invasion. As I'm trying to pause. And we see the actor's name is, I'm looking through my notes right now. We see Kingsley Ben Adiers, whose character is called Gravik, is basically igniting a bomb. Now I'm going to point out something when we get to a certain part, because this is who we're looking for. But the question is this Gravik? You know?
Right. And I think I know what you're going to point out, but we'll save that for when we get to that point in the trailer.
Yeah. So you see Colby Smulders coming back to portray Maria Hill. Now, Gravik is he's leading a resistance within the Skrulls against Talos. Because at the end of the trailer, we do see him having some very interesting powers. As we'll see later on, like tentacles coming out. And that's not necessarily what the normal Skrulls are known for doing.
It's not, and a lot of people have been questioning: is this going to be Super Skrull? Who
I'm one of them.
Traditionally in the comics, well, at least initially, there's been a few variations. Had the powers of the Fantastic Four all in one being, could use them at the same time. Basically, really cool visual effect there. Like when you would see this character, but regular Skrulls don't have. Other than shapeshifting, they don't have powers, right? Like they're just regular beings. They don't have powers other than shapeshifting. So I don't know. There's something different about them to be able to do that.
Yeah, and what I'm gathering, even though they don't say it here, this is at least what I'm gathering, and I'm not the only one that's saying this. Resistance is they're tired about the promise that was made by Fury and the others that they were going to find a home world for them to settle on, and it hasn't happened, and it's been decades since that promise was made. And so they're going to take Earth, because if they're homeworld, then they're going after it and going to be possibly replacing people. Looks like they're taking a page out of Hydra's playbook.
Yeah, funny how that works.
Mm-hmm. And we get our first look at first words from Sonya Falsworth, who is played by Olivia Colman, saying, "You're telling Fury you're in no shape for this fight. That lies before us, old friend." Now, she's basically the UK's version of Nick Fury. She leads MI13. MI13 is specifically deals with paranormal and supernatural activity, and is apparently, as you'll kind of get hints towards, she is way more brutal and will do anything to protect the United Kingdom against this threat. She is the granddaughter of James Montgomery Falsworth, a.k.a. Union Jack from Captain America the First Avenger, as one of his Howling Commandos. We have a very big history of the descendants of the Howling Commandos being featured in the MCU.
Absolutely. Absolutely, we do.
Now, throughout this, we hear a ticking of clocks, and all the clocks in her office are telling different times. Now, the show Heavy Spoilers pointed out, her office, like that idea is looking at the face of the clock doesn't always tell you the true time, just like looking at the face of a person doesn't tell you who they I take it back. This is actually coming from Ryan Airy. My apologies, Ryan Airy. So looking at the face of a clock doesn't always tell you the time, but looking at the face of a person doesn't always tell you who they truly are. So this scene right here, we've seen this before, they all transform into Gravik. So I think that Gravik is not just the leader of this resistance. Anyone who is trying to do something out there in the public to show the face, they're going to use the face of Gravik. So they're looking for just one person. They're looking for this one person, and they're driving themselves nuts trying to find him, because he is everywhere and nowhere all at once.
Everywhere, everything. Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense to me, that they would use him this way. And this scene with, Talos and then just surrounded by them all, I think it's really interesting. And I kind of wonder if he'll get out of it by also shapeshifting to look like Gravik, just to then blend in with the others.
Yes, and they're actually in a London Museum of Portraits of famous individuals. Interesting choice. So you see Sonya and Fury going up to a gravesite, and Fury says, "This is personal," and it says Colonel Nicholas J. Fury. And this is a different one from what we saw as a
Mm-hmm.
gravesite in The Winter Soldier. And the quote that read on his is that the path of the righteous man, which is a little Easter egg to Pulp Fiction. This one reads, greater love hath no man than a man who lay down his life for his friends.
Right. So I wonder why the change. Is this just a continuity error? Is this quote going to mean something? Did it actually change it? Like, is there a in canon reason why they changed it, or did they decide they want to use this for a particular reason? We'll let the Easter egg go from the Winter Soldier.
Exactly. So we see him going into a crypt, and this crypt has some secrets in it. Now, as I'm trying to kind of pause a little bit as we see, now this crypt hides some weapons, hides some equipment. We see the changeover in the coat. This has, and I've seen some better high quality screenshots. This has Nordic runes on it, and basically some of Ryan Airy Screen Crush, his people over there, was able to kind of piece it together. And the Nordic runes roughly translate that this is a place of sanctuary and friendship, which will lead to a danger and a challenge where a hero will need to rise to the occasion. Question to people saying, is this a wolf or a boar?
Guess I don't know enough definitively about that to answer that
Yeah.
question, but I did see someone asking wolf or boar. Like that's all they were asking was just that. I'm like, I don't know. We're gonna find out, but
Yeah.
or maybe we'll find out. I hope we find out, but I don't
but
know.
but Nordic runes being placed on this. Thor has created a hiding place for us because his stuff has some Asgardian little tricks up his sleeve.
Certainly wouldn't rule it out.
Yeah. So Sonya says, very few of us know about the wars fought in the shadows that have raged on this planet. And we see him continue walking with Talos, basically kind of hinting at there have been a clandestine war on Earth for decades. So we see Maria Hill. We see our first look at Everett Ross. Now, there's also been some theories about Everett Ross going around. Could Ross be a Skrull now that he is on the run? He was married to Val,
Don't call it
getting
Val.
getting secrets, which would be a cool switch from the comics because, I'll just leave it at that. We're getting ready to get into Secret Invasion. There would be an interesting switch if that were to happen.
Sure.
He chose Wakanda over the U.S. government. He's been in contact with Wakanda, getting secrets from them. I mean, it would be an interesting idea.
And at the time we had commented on Wakanda Forever, it felt like his inclusion was really there more to serve the MCU at large more than it was Wakanda Forever directly. And that, here we are. We're going to see him just less than a year later.
Yeah. So we see soldiers coming up on a convoy that's been taken out. All right, so we see a lot of these bodies, and we get introduced to Amelia Clark's character, Gaia. These little cocoons, I'm very confident that these are the bodies of the leaders that the Skrulls of part of Gravik's resistance have taken over, and they're keeping them on life support.
I hadn't thought of it that way, but I could. Yeah, I guess I had wondered if my initial thought on this was that it was a bunch of squirrels that were like in some sort of hibernation before
Could
they
be
were
that
alone.
too. But yeah, so Gaia, this is she is the daughter of Talos. We were introduced to Gaia as a young child in Captain Marvel, but yeah, Vanity Fair put out the official word that she is playing his grown up daughter.
Yes, which is
Who is
nice to
on
see.
who is on Gravik's resistance team. So she has turned against her father.
Yeah, I kind of hope we get to see her meet up with Carol at some point.
Yeah, that would be interesting too. And I like how Sonya goes to Farnsworth goes to Fury and says, "Do you feel responsible?" Because yeah, part of this is kind of Fury's fault. So we're in France, and we get this. It says like on the closed caption, agent says, "Where are the Avengers?" And that is a real question at this point because there are no Avengers. There are no official Avengers out there.
Right, and they've been asking that question since Far From Home.
Mm-hmm.
Where are the Avengers? Spider-Man, are you the leader of the Avengers? Where are they? I don't think we're going to be seeing them in this either. Maybe a couple individually,
Yeah.
but like War Machine, but I don't think as a collective.
Mm-hmm. So as we see behind a graphic now, this is some sort of device, and I think that as we see later on, like I think they're definitely hiding out in basically a decommissioned or contaminated or former nuclear site. Could be Chernobyl, could be the MCU version of Chernobyl. I think that this is where this device is located.
Yeah, I'm sorry, brain farted there, but I
Yeah, you're
completely
fine.
agree.
I like how Fury says this is a fight I've got to fight alone because he's the only person he can trust. He doesn't know who he can trust at this point.
Who can you trust?
Yeah.
That's the point, right? That's the question.
Yep. We see Emilia Clarke's character crying over a body. I think she might have lost something close to her. That's at least the implication I'm getting. Fury's getting like we get our first thing of James Rhodes, War Machine in this, saying you're the most wanted man on the planet. Now he's looking a little different. He's got the suit, he's got the tie, and he's got that American flag on his lapel.
Has he gone politician?
I think he could be, if he's not a member of Congress, my guess is he's a member or member of the president's cabinet.
The president's cabinet is what I was thinking about, because we're going to have President Ross coming up, not connected to Everett Ross, no relation, in Captain America New World Order. It seems like somebody with James Rhodes' history, he could work his way up that chain. I could see that for sure.
Yep, exactly. Yep. So this is where I'm kind of thinking that this is where the resistance is hiding out. So guy is talking to Fury, saying you don't know what they have planned for you.
I would be curious to see how widespread the infection or the invasion, I guess is the better word, is actually going to be.
So we get a specimen sample being opened, and the symbol is from Damage Control. The specimen is Cull Obsidian. So remember, Cull Obsidian in Infinity War had his arm hacked off by Wong.
Yep.
So this is Damage Control has it. My question is, what are the Skrulls doing with this sample?
That you gotta wonder, is that going to be like the foundation for a Super Skrull in the MCU?
I mean, Damage Control is an amazing place for them to infiltrate to get access to all this stuff. So we get Sonya getting ready to torture someone. There's Gravik staring off in the abyss. Great action shots. All right. So we got Emilia Clarke back to back with a quote unquote unknown person, but it has been officially confirmed that is Nick Fury's wife, Priscilla Fury, that she has turned her back with.
Yeah, the hidden wife, a page out of Clint Barton's playbook.
Exactly. There's Talos on the ground, some more fighting between Gravik and Fury. Yep, there's that.
The squid arms or whatever it is.
Yep, little squid arms, yep.
Long tentacles.
Exactly. As Fury walks off, he's got this is one last fight. So, officially, Secret Invasion premieres June 21st, the first Disney Plus show of Phase 5, the first show of 2023. The only show right now that we have official confirmation is happening this year. So, lots of great stuff with that trailer.
And, it's really not that far away. It's 76 days away, but between now and then we have Guardians 3 and Across the Spider-Verse. So it's going to be here any minute.
Oh, yeah. All right, so we'll transition to our only news item for the week at that point. So Fantastic Four is coming from the Hollywood Reporter as an exclusive, gets new writer with Avatar sequel scribe Josh Friedman. Marvel's First Family is getting a rewrite. Josh Friedman, who worked on the Avatar, who was one of the writers on The Way of Water and developed Snowpiercer as a TNT television series, has been tapped to write the script for Marvel Studios' Fantastic Four. Josh Friedman did respond to this and saying that on Twitter, he said, while I did help with all the Avatar sequels, I wrote Avatar 4, not Avatar 2, The Way of Water. Because
Yeah,
some people were like, "Oh, I'm not so sure about this."
IMDb has him listed as a story by credit for The
Yes.
Way of Water.
Yep. So he wanted to make sure he got that corrected out there. Matt Shankman is the director behind this as well. The feature has a current release date of February 14, 2025, but I think you and I are predicting that will probably change.
Yeah, I recently told, I think it was DC Outlaw, that I feel like anything not dated 2023 is very much subject to change right now.
Yeah. Jeff Kaplan and Ian Springer were the previous writers on the project, and Friedman's hire signals a potential change in tone. Kaplan and Springer are neophyte scribes known for their comedy scripts. Among the works they have in development are the Rebel Wilson comedy K-pop Lost in America and Disaster Wedding, which has Palm Springs filmmaker Max Bardo Bracabo attached to direct. Now, Friedman, on the other hand, is a veteran of the sci-fi genre. He co-wrote War of the Worlds with Steven Spielberg, and he was writer-creator of the Terminator, the Sarah Connor Chronicles Terminator TV show, and that was his first foray into the world of James Cameron. And then he would later return to work on 2019's Terminator: Dark Fate, which was one of the writers continuing with the Avatar franchise. The Scribe is also the co-showrunner of Foundation, the ambitious Apple series adapting Isaac Asimov's stories. The second season is due out later this year. So he's got some pedigree attached to him. So again, this does signal from the original writers to him. This does signal a change in what they may be going in the direction of.
Yeah, at least partially. You got to assume they're going to use some of the content from the original writers, but there's something that they wanted him brought in for.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely looking forward to it at that point. And but yeah, so that is all the news and lovely and all the trailers for this week. All both of them at that point. So a lot of good stuff for this week. So we're going to take our final ad break before we get into the listener feedback, Factor Fictions, and continuing on our comic book club with How Apt this week, Secret Invasion #1. As you know, listeners, these ads help keep the lights on the Geek Ultimate Alliance network. We don't get to choose if the ads come on. They can be a bit loud. Give you that 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. All right, Brent, as always, you put out the Spidey signal for listener questions. What do we got this week?
Yeah, first up from David. There is a line in the Spider-Verse trailer where Miles says, "You knew?" And this is not long after the Uncle Ben moment. Will Jefferson be the Uncle Ben of the show, causing Miles to try and change the future? Is Jefferson not long for this world? What do you think?
I mean, there's definitely some very strong hints of it. That's when I was wondering, like, Miles says you knew at that point. Miles did lose his uncle in the first one. That deeply affected him. But like you brought up before, he's one of the few spiders that has both his parents or both his parent or guardian still alive. So I think my theory on that one is I think he sees a possible future for him. And that's when he says, I want to go back. I got to stop this. Will it happen? Won't it happen? I don't know. But there is a strong hint towards that.
A couple of weeks ago, we had I did a Factor Fiction saying that Miles' parents will find out he's Spider-Man in this movie and Across the Spider-Verse. To me, that line, "You knew," I wonder if that Miles saying to Jefferson, "You knew I was Spider-Man. You knew that it was me." Like I think they're playing with the voiceover as well as the visuals there. So that happens in trailers all the time. I think the "you knew" is in reference to Jefferson, or maybe both his parents, absolutely knowing he is Spider-Man.
Yeah, that would be great. I would love that kind of conversation because again, he wasn't too good about keeping his secret at the end of that movie with basically telling his dad he loves him.
I love you. It's me every time.
Yep.
A little salute. All right, and then another question from Amari Daniels. Do you think we could ever see other versions of Spider-Man from other dimensions pop up in the MCU after No Way Home, or do you feel the films will focus strictly on the Tom Holland Peter?
I think right now, the only time we're going to see other versions of Spider-Man, that a strong case is probably Kang Dynasty or Secret Wars. I think right now that's my surefire guarantee of when you're going to see it. Next Spider-Man 4, I don't think I think that they're going to keep any kind of multiverse stuff like that for Kang and Secret Wars.
Yeah, if you ask me to factor fiction it, I might lean fact at like 52% of like we will see another Spider-Man one more time before Secret Wars. But even then, King Dynasty is the most likely time I think that's going to be. I don't really see them going back to that well with Spider-Man 4. Maybe it's just wish casting here, but I do think they are going to bring the scale down a bit and put it more to closer to those Kingpin rumors we talked about last week, or something along those lines, something along that level, even if it's not that particular storyline. So I don't know. Probably Avengers King Dynasty is the next likely time.
Yeah. In our show notes, we actually have another question. Actually, I just found at that point on our from Rich Legacy. He said, if you were in charge of the next 2 new Disney Plus shows, what shows would you greenlight? And any idea what Into the Spider-Verse Part 3, Beyond the Spider-Verse, will be like? So let's take the first one. If you were in charge, Brent, what would be the 2 shows you would greenlight for Disney Plus?
Well, I would probably even if it's with recasting, do Heroes for Hire. Feel like I would throw that out there. Give us Luke Cage, try and get my culture back. But even if not, at least go with the characters Luke Cage and Iron Fist. Again, I don't think Finn Jones is likely to come back. But I would probably do a Heroes for Hire. Like right now, that's what I'm thinking of. That's not likely to be happening already.
Yeah, I would say, Brent gets one, I'll get one at that point. I would say, the next show I would greenlight, maybe, we've got What If, but I would love, let's delve more into looking at, man, I got 2 good options there. I want to see an Earth X show. Just be honest. I want to see a Disney Plus series looking at the idea of just that world, Earth X.
I do think a multiverse show would be a good idea, especially before Secret Wars.
Mm-hmm.
One about someone who will be prominent in Secret Wars, maybe some character, just to make it up. Like say it was going to be about Captain Carter. Give us something set in Captain Carter's world. And I'm not talking about Multiverse of Madness. I'm talking about something more than that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So great questions this week, and let us head into Fact or Fiction. All right. So
Rich did have the other question of, do we have any
idea
about Beyond the Spider-Verse?
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't. Other than I am convinced we will get a live action scene in one of these movies, so that doesn't happen in Across. I think it's going to be in Beyond. Other than that, I honestly don't.
I think the only thing I would say, since we've got very little understanding, I mean, from the audience perspective, they're thinking that Spider-Man 2099 is the villain of it, while the Spot seems to be just some random intro villain that's going to be taken care of. So knowing what we know, that the Spot's going to be a much bigger villain, I think that it's going to be probably at the end of Across, we're going to see the Spider-Verse being very much almost broken, and the other one is in the idea of Beyond the Spider-Verse trying to repair it and get it back into order. So
yeah,
I will have a good kind of follow up for that, Rich, with one of my Factor Fictions of what I think we might see, but I'm going to say that for my Factor Fiction.
Okay, you know what? I was going to say something, but I'll wait just in case it ties into what you're going to say, and I'll bring it up then. I have one idea for the third one that I think legitimately is possible, but we'll wait and see if we're on the same wavelength.
Yeah. So, but yeah, great questions this week, and let's head into Factor Fictions from the previous week. So these were yours, Brent. Number 1, Don Cheadle will appear in Ironheart, trying to dissuade her from following in the steps of Tony. 73% said fact, 27% said fiction. Number 2, by the end of Phase 6, a character who has never held Thor's hammer will pick it up. 53% said fact, 47% said fiction. And finally, Miles' parents will find out he's Spider-Man in Across the Spider-Verse. 88% says fact, 12% said fiction. All right, my turn this week. So my first one. There will be at least 2 established MCU characters that will be revealed to be a Skrull in Secret Invasion. At least 2.
Okay, I gotta ask if Fury or Hill count since we've seen them.
Well, it can't necessarily be like Fury and Hill in the sense of Talos, and I can't remember the other Skrull's name at that
His
point.
wife, but I don't remember
his wife. Like that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking like
imposters.
Like they
because like Fury was like with Talos, it was blessed. He was doing it to help you. Like it was okay. So full two imposter Skrulls.
Mm-hmm. That, and we're gonna see it tracing back to your point. Like, is it going all the way back to Ultron? Like, how far? When were they replaced?
Yeah. Fact. I think I if anything, you might undercut it there. Maybe it'll be 3 or 4. Like we'll see if I feel this way at the end of the 6 episodes. But right now, it feels like they have to do something like that.
Oh, I think it's gonna have to be at least one's gonna have to be very significant, like to us, to the fan base. All right, so my next one. Continuing on with Secret Invasion, the current president of the United States in Secret Invasion will be revealed to be a Skrull, leading directly to the ascension of Thunderbolt Ross as president.
Ooh, I like that. And it could kind of easily be like not just the president, but the president and the VP and the Speaker of the House, like go through the pecking order to basically get through to what was he, Secretary of State, to to wherever he's at in the
order of
succession. Then they could go. I like that idea a lot. I'm going to say fact just because I think it sounds fun.
Now, what if like that convoy attack? If it's the president in that convoy, the president is killed. When a Skrull is killed, they revert back to Skrull form. So maybe that might be the revelation. Not just the president has died, the president was replaced, and the president all this time was a Skrull.
And that can tip them off, similar to the way we were tipped off with the Elektra Skrull in the books we read last week.
And so why wouldn't the country elect someone like Thunderbolt Ross to be president of the United States, to say like, hey, you know what? I'm going to take a test to prove you I'm not a Skrull or anything like that. I'm going to go after anyone that tries to threaten this. Like that would be a very Thunderbolt Ross move.
It would. And he's got a long history of hunting down people who turn into green things. So, with the Hulk. So it's like you could just see him using that in a campaign somewhere.
Oh, yeah. All right. My last one. This is tying into your kind of what you were asking for, Rich, what we think. So we will see Venom in either Across or Beyond the Spider-Verse.
Not at all where I was thinking.
Okay. All right.
So I guess I'll give my real answer to Rich's question as well, but let's do this first. Man, Venom. I'm gonna say fact. And I would like to add to that. I hope we see the black suited Spider-Man, the symbiote suit Spider-Man. Like I would like to see that. I think it'd be fun, even if it was just like the cloth costume and not the symbiote. Like that'd be okay, but just that suit design, I would love to see.
Yeah, like I can't remember if I've said like I'm a fact for all 3 of these tonight, because I think again it's Sony, so it's not a problem bringing Venom into this. They can do this. It's not a problem for them to put Venom in this in either Across or Beyond the Spider-Verse.
And worth remembering, there was a Into the Spider-Verse clip as a credit scene of the first Venom movie.
Yep.
And so they've kind of tied those together. Okay, well then I guess to backtrack real quick to Rich's question, my real answer, I think something with the Inheritors. Because if you think about it, in this movie, like it sounds like Miguel's trying to help keep the time stream moving and like keep it working properly. Another way we've seen that is like the Master Weaver and the Web of Life and the Spider-Verse comic books have very largely dealt with the Inheritors. And so I maybe it's a little bit of wishful thinking because, I'm a big fan of the Morlun character, but I think it would Man, it sure fits. And if Miguel is trying to keep the Web of Life active and working properly and repairing timelines and stuff, then the Inheritors would sure make a very good foil for that.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. All right, so I will be posting those from the road on Sunday afternoon.
We have
So,
one more
oh, you're right. Yep, we got Philip
from
Barker.
Philip
Yes.
Barker, who said, "Fact or fiction? The Kingpin will be the one to forge and bankroll a version of the Sinister Six in the MCU to face off against Tom Holland's Spider-Man in a future installment."
That if rumors are to be believed, like what we talked about last week, that's very something Kingpin to do. So you got me on that one, Philip. I'll be a fact on that one.
Yeah, I'm going fact if for no other reason than it sounds like a lot of fun. So
Yeah.
I'm into it. I love the idea, especially if this version of the Sinister Six is not made up entirely of Spider-Man villains.
Mm-hmm.
You know, get us someone in there from one of the play with those rumors from last week. You know, someone in there who's going after Hawkeye from the Ronin days, or someone who's going after Daredevil or the Punisher or whatever. Like Bullseye, right? Like if they wanted to bring in Bullseye, I'd love to see Bullseye in a Kingpin founded Sinister Six.
Exactly. So, all right. So I will be posting all 4 of those on Sunday afternoon. So make sure to pay attention to let your voices be heard with that. And all right. So let us start our comic book club. We've done the prologue last week. So now we're into the event proper. Secret Invasion issue number 1. It has been a long time since I've read this series at that point. I have to say, I love the artwork that goes along with this. By you, I think he does such a good job with this particular kind of event in how he draws the characters. The coloring is amazing with it. It gives this very, again, it's a mystery, and I think he does a really good job capturing the emotions of the characters, the worry, the concern of, like, again, who do you trust?
And not just that, and a lot of times artists, when they draw faces, they look very similar. Mark Bagley, whom I love on Spider-Man, one thing about him is his faces do often look pretty similar.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the characters when their masks and stuff are off, like they do a pretty good job of making them look like different people. And I think that's to be commended. And overall, this is a great opening to the Secret Invasion storyline. I mean, arguably it opened last week with the prologue, but you know what I mean, for the first kickoff event of the main thing. And they really waste no time showing us, oh yeah, there's some Skrulls, and they're embedded in deep in a few of these systems.
Mm-hmm, yep. And we get, for those that haven't been caught up at that point, basically hitting them, they like, hey, this Elektra is a Skrull, we're doing an autopsy on it to see how they were able to pull this off, not be detectable. And we get kind of the back and forth between our 2 Avengers team, because this is post Civil War. So we've got a group called the Secret Avengers, led by Luke Cage, who are basically everyone who's against Tony Stark. And
they're the new Avengers still.
Oh, the new Avengers. Okay, so new Avengers, and against Tony Stark and Superhuman Registration. And then we've got his Tony Stark's led Avengers, basically the Mighty Avengers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so now they're basically, Jessica Drew seems to be kind of playing both sides. Imagine that. Jessica Drew, Spider-Woman, playing both sides off each other.
S.H.I.E.L.D., Agent of Hydra, triple, quadruple agent, whatever number of agents she's up to at this point. Yes, she is often playing everybody towards her own ends.
And we get to see Abigail Brand talking with Dum Dum Dugan, as she is in charge of SWORD, monitoring the I'm trying to say the alien activity around the Earth at that point. And there is a ship coming into Earth atmosphere from the Skrulls. Jessica Drew tips off Luke Cage, saying, hey, you might as well getting ready to crash land at Savage Land. I'm giving you a heads up before Tony gets up. They steal a Quinjet, and they're off to the Savage Land to see exactly what's on this ship. And I love this meeting of both teams facing down each other. It's a cool splash scene.
Oh yeah, and they both kind of race each other there, and nobody trusts anybody, right? And even Tony earlier, he's like, he brings in Reed Richards, he brings in Hank Pym, and he's like, I don't know what to do. You guys might not be who you say you are, but we got to figure this out. So I need your help. And well, sure enough, we'll find out that Hank Pym is not. Very much is a Skrull. It's not who he claims to be. So Tony's right. Like they don't know what to do. They don't know who they are, but they got to start trusting people to figure out who they can trust.
Mm-hmm. And so Luke Cage tries to open up the ship and instead activates a alien virus that takes down Sword, takes down Tony's armor, takes down the helicarrier, takes down the raft. It just basically wreaks havoc around the world, including Thunderbolt's Mountain. And all of a sudden we get this reintroduction of Captain Marvel taking down the Thunderbolts.
Yeah, great shot, but not like I've read this twice, I think, in total,
Yeah.
and I honestly forgot entirely. Like I very much remember about Harry or about Norman Osborn in this series and what happens ultimately with him, but I had forgotten about the Captain Marvel version of the character.
Yeah. And then we flash to the Baxter building, the tours that are given since, again, everyone loves seeing the Fantastic Four. One of the people shapeshifts, so we already know they're a Skrull, into Sue Storm, trying to get in access to the main building and activating the negative zone and basically causing some chaos and activating it. And it's basically taking down the Baxter building and probably a good portion of New York with it.
Pretty much.
But Brent, what is the revelation as the Mighty Avengers and the New Avengers are fighting each other, or basically trying to come to Tony's aid because Tony's been taken down? What or who or whom comes out of this ship?
An awful lot of our superheroes come out of the ship looking like they're wearing some older costumes, right? Like Wolverine, like it's got the real short points or whatever ears on him and stuff. Like he looks similar to like an updated version of the costume he wore in Hulk 181 when he was first introduced. You've got Iron Man in one of his older costumes. You got the older Vision look here. Thor is looking super old, like from the 70s or 60s or so. Like it's the older versions of these characters, and not to mention Luke Cage's old Power Man one. And so this is going to be fun to see how they deal with this.
Yeah, and then we flash, Abigail Brand, Sword's been taken down, all these Skrull ships are coming in, and then we go back to Stark's lab. Hank Pym, Mr. Fantastic are trying to get some understanding of what's going on, and Mr. Fantastic thinks he's figured out how they've remained undetected, and Hank Pym, or who we thought was Hank Pym, holds a gun in his face. He says, "I do," actually fires it at Mr. Fantastic, and he's basically gone to goop form. And we get the revelation that Hank Pym is also a Skrull.
Such a good book. Good book.
It definitely started off on a banger, and they definitely hooked me at that point. So, well, we've got 7 more issues to see exactly how far this rabbit hole we're going to go down and who exactly continues to be proven who is a Skrull and who is not.
Who do you trust?
Who do you trust indeed? So obviously, since I won't be here next week, we're taking a 1 week break from Comic Book Club with issue number 2. So 1 week off. So it gives you a little bit of extra time to read. And 158 in the books. So Brent, tell people how they can follow you.
Yeah, BrentTech.social will that's where you can go to find me.
And want to thank, as always, our official sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com. Use that code MARVELGUA at checkout for $2 off every single order. You can follow me on Twitter at Chris Balgo. You can follow my other show, World's Finest True Believers, at Finest Believers. You can follow this show on Twitter at Marvel A Podcast. You can email the show at MarvelAlliancePodcast@gmail.com. You can follow the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Twitter at GUA Network. Feel free to tweet, email if you want to provide feedback, ask questions for us to answer on the show, fact or fictions. And continue to rate and review the Marvel Alliance solo feed, the GUA network feed on Apple Podcasts, Amazon, Spotify, whatever platform you listen to your podcast on. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for joining us live in the chat. Stay safe out there, everyone. And as Stan the Man would say, Excelsior, true believers. All right, Brent, post-credits discussion tonight. Let's do a Ted Lasso check-in at that point.
Always.
So I think we've got 3 episodes in, and if you have not caught up on the most recent episode, Brent and I will probably be talking a little bit about that, so you might want to pause, come back, watch that, and come back for the rest of our discussion. So
and just to be clear, we're 4 episodes in. So
four
if you
episodes.
did watch this week's episode,
Yep.
we're current on it.
So 4 episodes at that point. How many episodes are we getting this season?
Oh, let's take a look. It is scheduled to be 12.
12. Okay, so we're not quite halfway through. We're about a fourth of the way through at this point. So what are you thinking of the season so far?
So far, I'm really, really enjoying it, and I'm liking. I think my favorite little story has to do with Jamie Tart and his desire to beat Zava, the new player on the team, the new superstar on the team. But I got to tell you, I'm spoilers in the latest episode when they're playing Nate's new team, when they're playing West Ham, and they come out after halftime and they're super pissed off. I said to my wife, I really hope Jamie Tart is the one who scores the goals to bring them back into it. And it's not just Zava. I want Tart to actually have something to, and then the game goes off the rails. And I just was like somewhere between laughing and cringing because I felt so bad for him as it went off the rails. But loving what I'm seeing.
Yeah, it's really delving with that, like the mystification of how good is this team. The previous episode when they got Zava on the team, it seems to be like he was the saving grace. Like sometimes that one player, but he's that much quote unquote an amazing player on the team. Richmond has raised in the ranks at that point, and you get a number of kind of questions of what's going on, and we get who's our reporter that's doing the story on the team?
Trent Krim, Independent.
Trent Krim.
Independent.
Trent Krim from the Independent. Well, yeah, just now really independent.
He is independent.
Yeah, writing a book on the team and Ted Lasso, and he's picking up some interesting secrets and tidbits that Aaron asked me this when he made the kind of discovery of one of the players is gay, but it has not come out to the team and things like that. And my thing is, Trent may be a lot of things, but he has proven actually to make some good moves, and he may be keeping that in his back pocket, but I don't see him right now cashing that in a way, like trying to out him. I don't see it.
I really hope you're right. When that episode ended, I actually said, my first reaction was, don't be a dick, Trent.
I know,
just let him do his thing. Let Colin, he's the butt of so many jokes. Let him enjoy his life. He's with this person who obviously understands Colin's social situation right now. Just let him be happy. But I love that they found a way to include Trent so much into it, because I think he's been in more this year than he was in the last couple of years. Because he's not a member of the AFC Richmond staff, but he's got a desk there. He's working with them. He's using Nate's old desk across from Roy, which is fantastic. And that whole story of him joining was fantastic. But overall, Ted Lasso, I continue to just love and adore the show. I'm really wondering if they are going to do anything beyond this season or not. But if they don't, just 3 beautiful seasons, that's fine.
Yeah, I particularly love how we end this current episode with Ted talking to his wife saying, I'm upset you didn't talk to me that you're with someone, let alone being our former marriage therapist. We're trying to raise a kid together. We need to talk. We need to work together on this. And I think, this is obviously very hard for him to say just because of what we know Ted's gone through. But I did like seeing at the end his ex-wife smile, because I think she's very proud of him for doing that. But this is something I just don't know if we're ever going to. I would like to know finally, for what it's worth, like what ended. I have theories of what ended their marriage, but we've never been told outright what did it in.
Yeah, she's kind of said, like his unwavering optimism was too much, but never like what that final straw was. The whole marriage counselor thing, dating her now, is just so ethically wrong. It just pisses me off.
Very.
It just pisses me off so much. But hopefully that resolves okay. I was feeling bad for Ted. He took a shot with Sassy, but he's just gonna have to settle for the benefits, I guess.
But like he's listened to a therapist. He's confronting his wife. He's trying to take those shots. So I mean, sometimes and you saw him at the end, like he felt good about saying what he said to his wife. Like it took a lot, but he's making those positive steps. So
yes.
But yeah, so we'll continue these little check-ins as we go through it. But if you're not watching Ted Lasso, You need to correct that. It is a delightful show. So, all right, I will see you all in 2 weeks. Brent will be here next week with our buddy Mr. Hines, and I can't wait to see what shenanigans they get into. All right, see y'all later. Bye bye.
Next week.